Welcome back everyone. We need to talk about the latest round of US-China trade talks, because what's happening right now could reshape not just markets, but the global economy itself. There have been multiple updates, mixed headlines, and a lot of victory laps. Southsterdam Biestel deze die danselbrie beleefal. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent looks almost euphoric, describing what he calls a very substantial framework. But beneath all the confident talk, something deeper is going on, and we're going to break it all down. The big picture. At the heart of these new negotiations are three main pillars, three pressure points holding the global economy hostage. Number 1, US tariffs on China. Number 2, soybean exports and US farmers. And number 3, China's rare earth metals. The hidden backbone of modern technology. Now let's unpack each of these, because every one of them has global consequences. 1. The tariff gamble. President Trump has been threatening to raise tariffs on Chinese imports by another 100%, yes, doubling them. That's not a negotiation tactic, that's economic brinkmanship. Bessent proudly told reporters that Trump gave him enormous leverage with that threat. But let's be honest, that kind of leverage cuts both ways. It's like holding a grenade and saying, "1, I have the power because I can pull the pin." Sure. But you're standing right next to it. According to Bessent, a substantial framework has been reached that will avoid those 100% tariffs. He says China has made incredible concessions. Really? Let's see. The US claims that China has agreed to delay its new rare earth restrictions by 1 full year and resume buying US soybeans after months of near-zero imports. In return, the US will not go ahead with the 100% tariff escalation. Sounds like a win, right? Well, not so fast. We only know what the American side has revealed. No one knows what the US quietly offered China in return, and that's where the real story probably lies. The consumer pain point. Let's talk about the economic reality. Higher tariffs might sound like tough on China, but in practice they're attacks on American consumers, and right now, US consumer sentiment is collapsing to its lowest point in months. Inflation expectations have jumped again. Americans expect prices to stay high for the next decade. The affordability crisis, the one that started in 2022, is back. Everyday people are feeling it, in groceries, in rent, in car payments. The economy may look strong on paper, but the foundation is cracking. If those tariffs had gone into effect, we'd be staring down an even deeper affordability crisis. Because let's face it, China still sells over $1 billion of goods a day to the United States. So if tariffs double, it's not China that immediately crashes, it's the American consumer who gets slammed with higher prices. This isn't a trade war anymore, it's economic attrition. Who collapses first? The Chinese exporter or the American shopper? Who really wins? Now some might think removing tariffs is a gift to Beijing, but look closely, it actually benefits the US more. China's exports to the US account for just a small fraction of its GDP, less than 3%. They can find other buyers. The US doesn't have that luxury. Global demand for Chinese goods is still rising, hitting almost $4 trillion in exports last year. Meanwhile, US consumers and manufacturers would face skyrocketing costs if tariffs stayed in place. So yes, delaying or canceling the tariffs is technically a win for both sides, but economically, the US needed this deal far more than China did. 1. The soybean dilemma. Now let's talk about the soybean story, and trust me, this part is bigger than it looks. For months, US farmers have been in despair. Chinese soybean imports from America collapsed to nearly zero. That's tens of billions in lost exports. Trump had already prepared a $10 billion bailout package to rescue American farmers. Now Bessent says China will start buying again, and that the American farmer will feel very good once the deal is finalized. Sounds nice, doesn't it? Except, there's one small problem. China doesn't need American soybeans anymore. They've built long-term supply chains with Brazil and Argentina, diversifying away from the US for years. So if Beijing suddenly switches back to buying US soybeans, it means one thing: they're getting something massive in return. Because for China, this isn't about soybeans, it's about leverage. The cost of concessions. China currently has a 10% tariff on US soybeans. If they start buying again, they'll likely drop that tariff, but they won't do it for free. In effect, Beijing would be removing a tax on 12 billion of US goods. You don't do that without extracting concessions. And that's where things get interesting. because Besant's framework doesn't explain what the US gave back. Removing the 100% tariff threat alone isn't enough. China is playing the long game. They know the US economy is under pressure from within. They know the American consumer is tapped out. And they know Washington needs a symbolic victory to calm the markets. The rare earth card. Now let's move to the third and perhaps most critical piece of the puzzle, rare earth metals. These 17 elements are the lifeblood of the modern world. Smartphones, electric vehicles, AI chips, and defense systems all depend on them. And here's the uncomfortable truth. The US gets 70% of its rare earth supply from China. For some elements, that dependence is 100%. So when China announced it would impose stricter export rules, essentially throttling rare earth flows, it sent shock waves through the tech industry. That's why Besant pushed hard for China to delay the new rules by 1 year. But let's be real, a 1-year delay isn't enough to rebuild supply chains that take decades to develop. What it does give the US is time. Time to stockpile rare earths like there's no tomorrow. You can expect the US and its allies to go on a buying frenzy. They'll purchase everything they can, not just from China, but also from new partners like Australia and Malaysia. It's a smart move, but it's also a temporary fix. Because while China only controls about 60% of the mining, they control over 90% of the global refining capacity. That's the real choke point, and that advantage won't vanish overnight. The reality of decoupling. Here's the big paradox. The US wants to reduce dependence on China while also demanding cheaper imports from China. You can't have both. The rare earths, the soybeans, the manufacturing inputs, they're all interconnected. If the US wants to rebuild its industrial base, it needs time, money, and technology. But that can't happen while inflation is high, interest rates are crushing, and consumers are already struggling. Trump himself has admitted that the tariff war is not sustainable. And he's right. According to S&P's analysis of 9,000 global companies, tariffs have created a $1.2 trillion hole in global supply chains. Think about that. $1.2 trillion in higher costs, and guess who's paying for it? Not governments, not corporations, consumers, ordinary people. Only about 1/3 of those costs are absorbed by companies. The rest is passed down to you and me. Inflation and denial. Now here's where things get absurd. Despite all this data, officials still claim inflation is under control. Coffee up 19%, beef up 15%, bacon up nearly 6%. But apparently, that's all just cherry picking. The government says eggflation is over, gasoline prices are down, and inflation is cooling. Sure, but go ask the average American family if they feel richer. The truth is, the US can't afford another tariff shock. A 100% tariff hike on Chinese imports would blow up the fragile recovery. It would crush small businesses, skyrocket prices, and devastate working-class households. Already, auto loan delinquencies are at their highest level since 2008. Nearly 6.5% of subprime borrowers are behind on payments. People are choosing between paying for food or paying for their cars. If Walmart prices suddenly double because of a tariff war, the system will collapse. The hidden truth. So if you think the US is doing China a favor with this new deal, think again. This is not generosity, this is damage control. Besant isn't securing a victory, he's trying to prevent the ship from sinking. This framework is not a treaty, it's a truce. A temporary pause before the next storm. The decoupling will continue. The tech war will continue. The AI race, the sanctions, the export controls, all of it will continue. But for now, both sides need a breather. The US needs to calm inflation, China needs to stabilize exports, and so, we get this fragile win-win that's really a lose-less situation. The coming multipolar world. Beijing knows the future is multipolar, a world not dominated by one superpower, but by competing blocs. The US wants to maintain control through tariffs and sanctions. China wants to expand through trade and technology. The trade war is simply the front line of a much bigger struggle, the battle to define the future world order. And make no mistake, this isn't over. So here's the real takeaway. This trade deal might look like a handshake, but behind the smiles are clenched fists. The global economy is entering a new phase, one of shifting alliances, fragmented trade, and rising nationalism. Tariffs won't fix that. Bailouts won't fix that. Even short-term deals like this won't fix that. but they will buy time. And right now, time is the most valuable currency in the world. What do you think? Did the US really win this round, or is China playing the long game? What hidden concessions do you think Washington made behind closed doors? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I love hearing your take. And if you found this analysis helpful, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe for more deep geopolitical breakdowns, and share this video so more people can understand what's really happening behind the headlines. Stay sharp, stay informed, and I'll see you in the next one.